If the rest of the college football season plays out like the thriller we witnessed during week 0 in Ireland, we are in for one heck of a ride. Hey, David Dennis Jr., how about those Seminoles?
I think they are favorites to win that ACC, and because of the way the CFP is set up, that should probably mean that they have a guaranteed bid into that playoff.
A guaranteed bid, huh? We are not splitting the G here, but you guys know how it works. Last show's botched picks equal today's mutes. Let's go around the horn.
He's technically not wrong.
There's a mute for Isola, a mute for Tim Cowlishaw, a mute for Lindsey Theory, and how about we get a couple in here for David Dennis Jr. We'll get to college in a minute, but we start with the NFL news of the day. CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys finally agreeing to an extension, 4 years, $136 million, making him the highest paid non-quarterback ever behind Justin Jefferson. Lamb was holding out and had not played a snap this preseason. So Tim Cowlishaw, we start with you in Dallas. All good now in Dallas Cowboy land?
Courtney, there's a reason I'm wearing blue and silver today, as you can see. It's a glorious day here in the Metroplex. You know, I guess a person with a glass half empty person could say, well, they lost Deron Bland last week. That's 5 touchdowns on interceptions last year. They let offensive and defensive linemen and Tony Pollard go and didn't really replace them. Those are little details that may hurt them down the line. CeeDee Lamb is their best player. Fans were actually panicked about this, even though he had zero leverage. He was going to have to play. He wasn't going to miss practically $1 million a week and just sit out for no reason. And so they got it done. He didn't quite get Justin Jefferson money, as you said. He got better than A.J. Brown's contract. They can move forward with their best player. It remains to be seen if that means they're even close to being as good as they were last year.
Lindsey Theory, it's all done now. The Cowboys are all in. How do you read the CeeDee Lamb extension?
Well, first off, these Cowboys, they thrive off chaos. A little bit of that chaos is now gone. I visited Cowboys training camp a few times, and let me tell you, that offense, while Dak Prescott and Brandon Cooks had a nice day together on one of the joint practices with the Rams, it was very clear they need CeeDee Lamb. Another day, that offense looked just downright bad, terrible. Let's call it what it is. So this deal with CeeDee Lamb is incredibly important if this Cowboys team wants to realize its potential, which could mean obviously implications for Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. A little bit of that chaos settled, but they do love chaos.
They certainly do down in Dallas. Frank, how do you see this situation? It feels inevitable. It felt inevitable. This was going to happen. I don't know why the Cowboys have to continue to do business this way, but the deal is done. What does it mean for this offense?
Yeah. What does Tim call it? The Metroplex? It sounds like a ride at Six Flags. You know, having leverage, and I disagree with Tim, CeeDee Lamb does have leverage. Because having leverage in the NFL means missing most of training camp and still getting your money, and he has 13 days to get ready. So everyone's going to talk about, will he be ready? What about working out? Can he get hurt? CeeDee Lamb knew what he was doing. His agent knew what he was doing. And why do you think Jerry Jones, when he was asked about it, he had a cryptic remark? He knew that they were close. We figured, let me not mess anything up. They got the receiver they wanted. Plays when it really matters, because he's the one that keeps falling short in those big moments.
All right, and David Dennis Jr., Frank mentions the quarterback. What does this mean for Dak Prescott now? Is he next?
Yeah, I want to go back to something that Tim said. He said that the fans were panicked. Like, the panic didn't come out of thin air. This is the panic of the Cowboys and Jerry Jones' creation. This is Jerry Jones saying things like, I have no urgency. Who knows what's going to happen? And sending these messages where CeeDee Lamb has to respond on Twitter. And it's a circus for no reason. The Cowboys needed this guy. He set the record for the most receptions and most receiving yards last year. There was a 1,000-yard gap between CeeDee Lamb and whoever was second in receiving yards. He is the offense, along with Dak, who they also need to sign, and there's also no reason it's taken them that long to get the Dak contract together. So these are all chaotic situations of the Cowboys' own doing, and they need to fix this before
this year. Without Pollard, Zeke is their best running back. Are you serious with that? They really don't have another threat on this offense beyond CeeDee Lamb.
All right, and Lindsey Theory.
I just want to say the panic and the chaos that Jerry Jones is he's a savvy businessman. He knows exactly what he's doing. He wants us talking about those Cowboys every single day. So everything he stirs up, there is very much a reason why.
And that is exactly what we do here at the ESPN family of networks. We always talk about the Cowboys every single day. All right, let's stay in the NFL. Last night, Patriots quarterback Jacoby Brissett exited New England's final preseason game with a shoulder injury after being sacked by a free rusher on the 6th offensive play. He was replaced by rookie Drake May, who put together an 88-yard touchdown drive on his first possession. But little else. Swiss cheese offensive line all the way around. New England coach Jerod Mayo said if this was a regular season game, Brissett would have kept playing. And today on the Greg Hill Show, Mayo seemed to drop a hint on which way he's leaning. Quote, "What I will say is this is a true competition. And I would say at this current point, Drake has outplayed Jacoby." Lindsey Theory, who should be starting at quarterback for the Patriots in week 1?
It should absolutely be Jacoby Brissett. Look, if he is physically able to go out there and play, the Patriots are not built to win today. Drake May, in his rookie season, they should do everything they can to protect him. We've kind of seen the blueprint, albeit for different reasons, with he can succeed. That means having an offensive line that's not going to make him a liability to get injured back there. That means making sure your offense is ready to go. So whether that comes a couple games into the season, further down the road, Jacoby Brissett needs to be their guy if he is healthy, and they can try and keep Drake May, as healthy as possible, as learning.
Sounds like kind of a give up. If he's almost ready, you got to put him out there. But you can get in a lot of trouble playing a rookie quarterback on a bad team, especially one with a suspect offensive line and a suspect left tackle, and that's what they seem to have.
This is not a team, David Dennis Jr., that is built to win now by any stretch, very much in a rebuild. What's the in the season where they naturally decide, hey, we've seen enough from Jacoby Brissett, now's the time to get reps for Drake May?
I actually think it should be the reverse. Like, if you're waiting for the New England Patriots to be good enough for Drake May to be behind that offensive line, you're going to be waiting a really long time. They were last in pass blocking wins against the rush last year. They had 8 penalties last game. So if you want a perfect situation for Drake May to be behind there where he feels protected, you're not looking at him starting for another year or two. When you look at the quarterbacks who have come on, the Jordan Love, they've come on out behind winning teams and winning quarterbacks. The Patriots do not have that. Give Drake May the reps right now, and then if he starts getting, beaten behind that line and he starts to look like he may run the risk of injury, then you pull him and then you put Brissett in. But I think you start with Drake May in week 1.
But you lost me there. That's just not a logical way that business is done in the NFL. Throwing out a rookie and then realizing, oh, wait, this situation is untenable, Frank Iasola. Let's pull him back. Like, how could they possibly go about it that way?
Yeah, I understand what David is saying, but it's 17 games. So if it doesn't start the first 4 or 5 games, you still have 12 games left, 13 games left. And remember, since the merger, there have been only 5 teams that have made the playoffs with a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback. I understand Houston did it last year, and we're seeing more rookies start. But Lindsey mentioned it. You're going to have this guy running for his life from week 1 because of that offensive line. The reason Jacoby Brissett got hurt was because of the offensive line. I am not starting Drake May to start the season, not on this team.
Did we not learn a lesson from how Bryce Young's rookie season went last year in Carolina? Season did in Carolina. How can you expect the number 3 overall pick to not have his confidence broken? Tim, once that confidence is gone, it's pretty difficult, as we've seen, to get it back from a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, you get into a real shaky situation when you're pulling him back and forth. From you're starting, now you're on the bench, you got to learn again, now we're throwing you back out there. That's why I just don't understand Brissett's presence in last night's game.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure why he was playing in that game either. Typically the 3rd preseason game, starters aren't even out there at all, but that was the case for the New England Patriots in their 3rd preseason game. All right, there is your horn. When we come back, that FSU lock that David predicted, oh boy, we are getting into that. Buy or sell next.
To you from the Seaport, brought to you by Chase.
Our national panel weren't the only ones who thought Florida State was going to roll Georgia Tech. ESPN bet had the Yellow Jackets as 10-point dogs before Georgia Tech averaged over 5 yards a carry on Florida State's defense, and Aiden Barr kicked a 44-yard game-winning field goal as time expired to cement the 24-21 upset. The college football playoff takes 12 teams this year, but CFP hopeful Florida State is already in an 0-1 hole, and we're not even at week 1. Lindsay, how damaging was this loss to FSU's playoff hopes?
If there's anything I've learned in my old age, it is to not panic in week 0. I'm going glass half full. Look, college football is going to look completely different this year. There's a 12-team playoff. This game come December could mean absolutely nothing. Sure, it's going to be on Florida State's resume. It's going to be a little nick against them, but will it absolutely keep them out of the college football playoff? Far too soon to tell as far as the eye test on how they look compared to the other ACC talent. Look, we haven't seen many other teams play this season, so let's calm down. It's a bad loss. It is in Dublin. That's going to be taken into account that they had to travel across the ocean, but calm down.
I like what Lindsay said. It is a bad loss. Let's put some respect, Tim, on this Georgia Tech team. They were 7-6 last year. They beat Miami. They ended up beating North Carolina. How do you see this loss affecting Florida State going forward?
Well, I think it will have a damaging effect. And a 12-team playoff sounds very inclusive, but realistically, 7 or 8 of those teams are going to be for the SEC and the Big Ten. There'll be one spot for an ACC team, and Florida State has competition from Louisville, from Miami, from the SMU Mustangs, the mighty Mustangs right down the road here. It's a different conference, and you can't afford to lose games like that.
David Dennis Jr., how do you see it affecting Florida State?
Okay, let's look on the bright side here for Florida State. 1, you could probably lose a couple of games and still win that conference. 2, Florida State has not lost to a team with Georgia in the name since October of 2022. So that's another thing that's good for them. What's the problem is what I saw on the field, especially from that offense. DJU, 13 of 19 of his completions were within 5 yards. That shows a lack of confidence in your QB. And Novell's not 1. He's 2-8 as a coach without Jordan Travis as his quarterback. Those are the concerning things, what you saw on the field. But the schedule and the record indicates that they can still make it with a couple of losses.
Frank Iasola, what you buying, what you selling about the way this affects Florida State and the CFP?
I was convinced David was going to say they're still undefeated on U.S. soil. They're in a lot of trouble. That was a conference game. If they had lost to Notre Dame in Ireland, you say, well, it's a home game for Notre Dame. We're okay. They still have to play Miami. You know, they have to play Clemson. They're in a load of trouble. And they set the tone with that 60-point loss they had to a team named Georgia, David.
All right, buy or sell too. You know what they say. If you don't have glowing remarks about Colorado's football team, you won't be able to say anything at all. That is the reality for Denver Post columnist Sean Keeler, who has been banned from asking football questions of Deion Sanders by the university after they took issue with Keeler's references to Sanders as, quote, deposition Deion, the Bruce Lee of BS, among others. The statement from the university read, quote, after a series of sustained personal attacks on the football program and specifically Coach Prime, the CU athletic department, in conjunction with the football program, have decided not to take questions from Denver Post columnist Sean Keeler at football-related events. This is a show made up of sports writers, so Tim, I go to you with this. It's one thing for Sanders to refuse to take questions on his own. How do you view the university singling out a journalist to censor him?
Courtney, the school I attended as a freshman that gave me such a springboard to this marvelous career I've carved out really disappointed me here. It's one thing for Deion to have a battle with a columnist. Coaches get into it with reporters and columnists all the time. When the whole university, when the whole athletic department says he can't talk to anybody here with our football program, what they've done is taken a local story and made it national and made the school look completely foolish and as childish as Deion tends to be at times.
And doing it before they've even played a down of football this year. That's some self-inflicted wounds if I've ever seen it. David Dennis Jr., how do you see the media ban that CU Athletics is putting out on the Denver Post columnist?
Yeah, this is inexcusable and another example of dictatorial policy from Deion Sanders when it comes to journalists. You got to remember, at Jackson State, he banned a reporter for reporting on a domestic violence issue with one of the players. And now you have a situation where the school is backing him and banning somebody for writing columns about Deion Sanders as a coach. Colorado has a journalism department. It's been there for 100 years. How do you look at those students and explain to them that you're teaching journalism when you have when that same institution is banning reporters for doing their job?
Frank Isola, to you.
Yeah, Tim was part of that first graduating class. I think what it tells you is Deion's going to have a really difficult time repeating as Sportsman of the Year. That's for sure. It's so weak on the school. It's weak on him. Here's the guy that filmed, talking to those leftover players, humiliating them publicly. Yet when the columnist comes after him, his reaction is to try to censor them and cut them off. I love Deion as a player, both in football and baseball, but as a coach, he needs to grow up a little bit.
And Lindsey Theory, to you.
Frank took my joke. But that withstanding, TJ Simers, the late great TJ Simers, I'm really happy for Deion Sanders that they did not encounter each other. But that statement that was put out by Boulder, look, they called him Coach Prime in his statement. His name is not Coach Prime. It is Deion Sanders, Coach Sanders, Deion Sanders. Let's just start there, because they right there are illustrating the entire issue is that the world revolves around Coach Prime. But again, that's not professional on their part. It is Deion Sanders, and he is the head coach of the university, of the football team, and he should be open to the same criticism as everybody else.
Buy or sell 3, Magic Johnson taking issue with several comments made by Timberwolves star Anthony Edwards regarding players from an era of the NBA that Edwards has admitted he does not know much about. Edwards stirring up controversy by telling the Wall Street Journal that Michael Jordan was the only skilled player of his era, which Johnson said didn't even warrant a response considering Edwards has never won a championship. Frank, buy or sell this clapback from Magic Johnson?
Yeah, you can't sell Anthony Edwards enough. He's a terrific player. He plays all the time. He plays with joy, so there's a lot to like about him. He's coming from a place of ignorance here. Michael Jordan, of course, was great. Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Clyde Drexel. Come on now, Anthony Edwards. You don't know what you're talking about.
Lindsey Theory?
Anthony Edwards was on the right track when he said, I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. Stop right there. Say no more.
Tim Cowlishaw?
I agree that Anthony Edwards is a fun player to be around and to watch. But if I'm coming off the Western Conference Finals, where I went out in 5 games against Dallas and I did not step up in any game except Game 4, I'm going to be quiet about it. I'm not going to be going after Magic Johnson and people.
And David Dennis Jr.
This is why I don't argue with Gen Z about sports and music on social media. I just leave them alone. They just don't know any better. But the thing that I'm buying here is actually the Magic Johnson of this. I like that feisty attitude from Magic. We got some of his real personality, that trash-talking Magic. I want that Magic Johnson to hop on Twitter and tweet after games instead of the one that we're getting right now. I want spicy Magic Johnson back.
All right, there's our horn. Gotta run. Goodbye to Tim Cowlishaw. Have fun with CeeDee Lamb and his new contract. And goodbye to David Dennis Jr. Here's your showdown coming up next. Isola, Theory. I think this is the first time we've gotten this matchup before.
Yes.
Lindsey Theory, Frank Isola, good luck in showdown. Aaron Judge is on pace to break his own American League home run record after hitting his 50th and 51st homers of the season in a 10-3 dub over the Colorado Rockies. Lindsey, will Judge finish with more or less than 63 home runs?
Courtney, I'm taking the over 7 home runs in the last 6 games, and September baseball, which is so exciting, is just around the corner. That means Aaron Judge is heating up, and he's going to continue to be on fire, and he has no pressure chasing his own record.
Here's my theory, Lindsey. If he had hit more than 6 home runs in April, he could have been chasing 73. But what he's doing is amazing, especially after last year when he had his injured foot, missed most of the season. He's all the way back.
Well, he did have to.
He'll do it. 63.
He did have to carry the team for the first half of the season, Frank Isola. More home runs than strikeouts in his last 13 games. Not bad at all. We split the point.
Give yourself a point.
There we go. Coming up next, Chicago Sky forward Angel Reese recording her 3rd consecutive game with at least 20 rebounds Sunday. But the Sky lose 77-75 on a buzzer beater from Las Vegas Aces MVP frontrunner A'ja Wilson. The Aces moving to 18-11 with the win, while the Sky have lost 4 of 5 since the WNBA resumed play after the Olympic break. Frank, who had the more impactful performance?
Well, that was a great out-of-bounds play with A'ja Wilson finishing at the rim. I love what Angel Reese is doing, but the rebound numbers could come down a little bit if she would make more shots, and that'll eventually happen.
Frank, you're a hater of the grind. As a former walk-on, I love the grind. The rebounds do it for me. To me, that's night in, night out of getting after it. Sure, she can make her shot, but that wouldn't give her the rebounds.
And Lindsay actually
I'm a
answered the
walk-on on
question
this show.
here on this one, so you get the FaceTime.
It is not National Parents Day, but let me just give a shout out to all the parents I've worked with throughout my career, because I had no idea what you were up against until I just had a second son. And if anybody could please, don't take pity on me, but please send me any tips you might have on how to get a 2.5-year-old in their jammies every night, I would definitely appreciate it. So congrats to all the parents out there. You're doing it.
Thank you, Lindsay Theory. I'm going to go with the
all of
old
us.
David Dennis Jr. guarantee here. Guarantee I'm going to hit this one. 23.5-hour break.